Hello everyone and welcome back to the Teens Mind Podcast, the podcast where me, a 14-year-old kid, talks about topics he doesn't understand. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a dive into Trisha Paytas and the insane freakout she had in the Frenemies podcast, as well as thanking you guys because the support on the podcast has been quite mental. And yeah, anyways, with that said, you're watching Teens Mind. So, first thing I want to talk about is the fact that my recent episode, the one where I talked about ways to make money as a teenager, actually did really good. It's my most watched podcast episode, and I want to thank you guys because that is actually really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much to the extent of it. The podcast has been doing quite well. I didn't expect it to go this well. I thought I was gonna get like 3 views and 0 on some episodes, but each episode has at least 3 views, which is, in my humble opinion, quite nice of you, because you just hear me talk jack shit for 30 minutes, but hey, if you enjoy it, who am I to complain? And don't worry, I'm not gonna have ads here anytime soon. This is purely for fun. I don't want to monetize it quite yet, but I actually really enjoyed talking shit for absolute 30 minutes. By the way, shout out to the South African people watching my podcast, because apparently the high percentage of my podcast listeners are from South Africa. So shout out to my boys in South Africa, or my girls, I don't know. And then the US, shout out to my US boys. And then my own country has 25 listeners, which is quite cool. Recently, I made it into Apple Podcast, so if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, hey, what's up? We're in here now. Please rate my podcast if you like it, because that actually helps out a crap ton, and I really love it, and I really love doing this podcast because it's really fun, and there's episodes every Tuesday, so hey, just stick here. And anyway, so this brings us to the first thing I want to talk about, which is Trisha Paytas' insane freakout she had on the Frenemies podcast. If you don't know about Trisha Paytas, basically what she did is that she has a podcast with H3. If you don't know who H3 is, he is the host of the H3 podcast, as well as he has a bunch of other things going on in his channel, but he mostly is known for the H3 podcast. He's interviewed massive guests, by the way. There, he's like John Peterson. I was so stupid. I didn't mean, what is his name? Peterson. It's something Peterson. I swear, I've written scripts about him. Jordan Peterson. He's interviewed people like Jordan Peterson. He's just a massive, and he seems like a really nice guy. And he has a podcast with Trisha Paytas, the OnlyFans woman herself. And yeah, so she recently had an absolutely insane freakout on the podcast. And this was because I actually totally forgot. Okay, so let me explain to you, because if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you don't know the Frenemies podcast. Let me explain to you what happened, basically. So what happened is Trisha Paytas, right? We all know and love Trisha Paytas. So what she did is that she went on the Frenemies podcast, because she's the co-host, and then she started talking about how Ethan's wife hated him, and Ethan said, dude, that is not true. And she said, no, it is true. And then they got into a big fight because Ethan told them that she didn't want that Hila, which is the name of his wife, didn't want to be talked about on the podcast, and that she needed to respect that. And I agree with Ethan, because if she doesn't want to be mentioned, then don't mention her on the podcast. But Trisha had this big shit fit where she was like, no, I'm gonna talk about whoever I want to, which is totally, it's just uncalled for, really, because really it's quite the phenomenon, because she freaked out, and she's freaked out like this before. This is the second time she stormed out and got pissed off at Ethan. She always gets pissed off at Ethan, but this was really pissy. She was really pissy this episode, and the worst part about it was throughout like the beginning of the episode, she was really cool. She was like just chilling. She was talking to Ethan. They were being really cool, and then Ethan just was like, hey dude, so can you please not talk about my wife? And then she was like, nah, I'm gonna talk about your wife because I want to talk about your wife. And then they got into a big fight because according to Trisha, Ethan, she should be able to talk about whatever she wants, and that makes this podcast fake for some reason. And then she just stormed out, and I haven't seen this video, but I saw it on my page. I might watch it later. It's about how basically how about this Trisha Paytas has mental illness and how the podcast has shown that. I'm gonna watch that episode really soon. I might even watch it on the podcast. I don't know if this is gonna be a bonus episode or just the episode that you're gonna hear on Tuesday, but I really don't know. I want to record bonus episodes because bonus episodes are like the times where I'm just feeling like recording an episode and doing something, and this is what I'm doing right now because I love this podcast, as I've mentioned before. So she got really pissy at Ethan, and I was kind of pissed off during most of the episode because Ethan doesn't know how to handle this type of thing. Sure, he's a father, but dude, you can't handle a 30-year-old having a mental breakdown on your podcast. It was really weird because Ethan was there, and you can tell Ethan really didn't want things to go downhill because you can tell he enjoys the podcast. And he said that Trisha had written him an apology and that things would be back to normal, which is fun because that podcast is really fun because I love listening to podcasts on my free time. I'm a big podcast person. Yeah, I listen to them on Spotify, and when I'm playing Minecraft and even like doing stuff in general, like doing homework, I love listening to podcasts. Like right now, before recording this episode, sorry I said recording, it's recording. Before I was recording this episode, I was listening to the E-Boys podcast, which, by the way, you should listen to if you have some spare time. It's a really funny podcast. I'm watching the one where they interviewed Tommy in it, but I'm not gonna go into backstory with that. But overall, he handled the situation really decently, as well as he did with Trisha's big freak out the first time, because he handled it perfectly. He was like, dude, okay, I'm sorry, if you want to leave, you can leave. I don't know how to handle this because I usually don't deal with 30-year-olds having mental breakdowns on my shows. Because every time Ethan does an interview on like his main podcast, the H3 podcast, the guests are usually like more low-key. Like, not that this is a bad thing, but in most of H3's podcast episodes, I don't know half the guests because I have a very refined YouTube taste, okay? I really don't listen to many YouTubers. I only listen to like a small, like tight-knit community of YouTubers. It's probably about 10 to 15 YouTubers that I actually am like, damn, cool, they released a new video. And like, I know their upload schedule. And one of those is H3 because I know that each Frenemies episode is either on Wednesday or on Tuesday. But these Frenemies episodes are getting a shit ton of views, while the H3 podcast got 371k because this dude did the podcast with ContraPoints. Who's ContraPoints? Not if you know who ContraPoints is, please enlighten me. I'm gonna actually Google her right now because I have no idea who she is. Wait, let me look up on my phone. ContraPoints. Let me see. Is she a YouTuber? Natalie Wynn is an American YouTuber whose videos explore politics, gender, ethics, race, and philosophy on her channel ContraPoints. Wynn provides contra-arguments to right-wing political argumentation, performed as various characters, often engaged in debate. She's 32. How many subs does she have? Let me check. ContraPoints on YouTube. Cause I mean, she has her own like. If you look her up on Google, she has her own like wiki page. ContraPoints. Oh yeah, she has 1.1 million subs. That's a really good amount on YouTube. I hope one day I can get 1.1 million subs on my YouTube page, but that probably won't happen. I don't even want that big a I don't know what I'd do with such big following actually. And with that said, I'm thinking about opening just like a gaming channel where I can just chill off and like play games, because I really like gaming as well as I really like talking to you guys, because this is fun. This is just me talking to myself for 30 minutes, just saying things or I don't. So anyways, what I was saying is that the H3 podcast says it needs Trisha Paytas, because what's been happening is the normal H3 podcast isn't getting that many views. When I'm saying not getting that many views, it's getting 300k views. It's still a shit ton of views, don't get me wrong, but the Frenemies episodes are getting millions, whilst the other ones are the podcast right now that's doing the worst is the H3 podcast. Like the regular H3 podcast is doing horrible numbers, and And this is compared to their other like podcasts, because they have the H3 podcast, they have Frenemies podcast, they have H3 After Dark, and they have Content Court, all which are their own like independent like show, but which are all like aired on the H3 podcast. And if you want me to have that like multiple shows where I talk about multiple things, because right now I'm just dumping all my thoughts into this podcast, then just feel free to tell me either by voicemail, tweet at me at It's Teens Mind, or send me a DM on Instagram at the Teenagers Mind _, and I'll be sure to respond to you, because I'm very active on both platforms, and I post every time I get an episode, and sometimes I post Q&As if you want to answer, if you want to ask anything. So follow me. I realized that I have 69 followers on Instagram, and yet none of those translate into actual podcast plays, which is kind of sad, but I mean, I get it. And I mean, that's what's true with most people, that they have more followers on Instagram, but usually they don't translate well into like views. If you have like 10k followers on Instagram, that's more of like 500 people that are like actual fans of you, and more of like 25,000 people that just are there because you posted a cool picture. But I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I mean, you want to have a nicely knit community with your listeners, because I mean, and I feel like Instagram's really been on the downhill recently, not only because of like the new update they did, which people hated. Basically, what they did is that they moved the button from where you post. Like, you know how before you had like the menu button and it was like the home, the search, the explore page, and post, right? They moved it, so now it's not the regular posting button. The posting button is now at the very top edge of your screen, which people found it really annoying, because people that post very often on Instagram thought that and then what the hell is the point if you have the square on the top of the screen? And it's absolutely retarded. I get it, because it's insane that you have to like break your thumb to reach the top of the screen where you want to post your like picture with your friends in X coffee bar, because everybody loves posting pictures of them in X coffee bar. But it's stupid, really. I mean, there's no better way to describe it. It's really stupid that they moved the button that people use most often. Sorry, I'm looking at the mic and it's peaking right now. I'll try to lower it. But it's really dumb that they raised the button, the most used button. It was like if YouTube moved all the videos to one corner of the screen and the rest of the screen real estate was taken up by YouTube stories. Do you watch YouTube stories? I don't think so. And I feel like in social media there's always like a war, because when one platform releases something that does really well, like for example when Snapchat first reeled out their stories, Instagram jumped on that trend really fast. That's the first thing they released. What they did was they copied down the stories, and then now Twitter stole the stories, and then after that WhatsApp was before. Do you even use WhatsApp? Because in the US, most people use Messenger, because that's what the default phone comes with. But here, no one has an iPhone. It's really rare to see like the average day-to-day person in Honduras have an iPhone, because most of us don't have an iPhone. But I have an iPhone, and most of my friends have an iPhone, because we come from relatively not rich, but we come from middle class houses that can afford iPhones. But most people here are probably carrying some Android phones, and I'm not saying they can't have messages, but it's just WhatsApp is like the universal thing most people use, because it's really easy to hook up to your phone number, and it's just overall a really pleasant experience using WhatsApp. And then they rolled out their new story feature, which I never go on because I'm too lazy to scroll down to the status update, and who looks at other people's statuses? I mean, I get watching other people's stories. I mean, all of that is fun and games, but then you have to click on another menu. It's really not that engaging as Instagram stories, where you just have to go up there and click, and you can you can even get Instagram stories in your explore page, which I think is really cool. And the fact that you can just watch stories on your explore page. My explore page is kind of fucked because I love everything, a little bit of everything, and I really haven't gotten the time to refine my explore page. The explore page is a worse version of the TikTok for you page, because it's it has almost the same pictures as like not the same pictures, you know what I mean. It has like nearly the same features. It's basically just an algorithm that soon enough gets tailored to your fitting, and you can just do whatever you want on it because it already knows the content you like. But I feel like that only happens on my main account. I have a main account where my personal account that probably will never leak, because you already know my name. My name is Santi, right? That's pretty much all you're ever gonna get about me, unless I become really famous one day, which is highly unlikely. But if you are listening to this podcast right now before I hit 28 million subscribers on YouTube, then you're one of the OGs, I guess. And you can claim that, and hey, when I get 25 million subs, I'll send you a free t-shirt. But yeah, I feel like what? Wait, that is really weird. What? Why is that like that? You see, I just went back. I have a shit ton of accounts on Instagram. I have the podcast account, I have my personal account, and I have a photography account, and I have a design account because I love designing thumbnails for the YouTubers. And when I log into my personal account, I can still post like regularly. But when I switch back to the podcast account, when I switch back to my podcast account, then the stupid button is there. What? That's actually kind of weird. But anyways, moving on. I feel like, social medias keep stealing shit off of each other, and I guess that's how it's gonna be. Like, next thing you're gonna see, Twitter's gonna pull out like their own version of TikTok, because Instagram did it. They came out with like their Reels, it's obviously just an attempt to leech off of what TikTok is popular for. And I see many people are using it as advertising because it's really easy to get views on Instagram Reels, because it's a relatively new feature that many people are using, because if you want to watch short vids, you're gonna go on TikTok. Like, let me see, I'm gonna go on my Reel page. Let's see what I see. Okay, I might get copyrighted for that song, but the first thing to give you an idea on how shitty these Reels are, the first thing I went and I saw was a reposted TikTok on the Reels page, and that is just fantastic. The fact that the first thing you go when you go on Instagram Reels, the first thing you see is a reposted TikTok. Damn, that must hurt actually, because Instagram's trying to pass this off like it's a new feature, and it's totally not like TikTok. But then the first post that you see on the Reels page is just a reposted TikTok that has, oh my god, it actually has 201,000 likes. I didn't expect that much people to be using Instagram Reels, but I guess I was wrong. I mean, Instagram, I feel like in Instagram you can get a lot of likes, but then not that many people like actually know who you are, because it's really easy to like a picture on Instagram. Like, it's just double tap and now I liked it, and now I just like the random ass person's page that I've never followed before. But then again, it's cool, it's engaging, it's trying to keep you hooked, as are most social media pages. I feel like the social media that I least engage with is Twitter. I just use it for business, and every once in a while I tweet something that I actually mean. But overall, it's just like a shit posting place where it's a lot of hate. A lot of people hate on each other on Instagram and on Twitter, but overall, who cares? I saw that Ethan Klein, which is the host of the H3 podcast, the one that Trisha Paytas quit, he deleted all his tweets, which I think is a really good idea, actually. If you erase all your tweets, then you don't have blackmail that people can hold you up to, because many people right now, like Shane Dawson and like other YouTubers that are getting quote-unquote canceled, are getting canceled because of old videos, old tweets that they put out that they probably didn't even mean to put, because jokes that passed off like 2 years ago, you can't get away with now. Like, if someone makes a blackface joke now, they're gonna get canceled, but if someone made a blackface joke 5 years ago, they wouldn't get canceled. Like, people would just think it's funny and move on. But now people are getting canceled over the slightest things. I saw that Charlie D'Amelio, I talked about this in another episode, Charlie D'Amelio got canceled for wanting dino nuggets, which again I think is completely retarded. I mean, why are you canceling a 16-year-old when you should be canceling the child predators that are literally on TikTok and still haven't been canceled for some reason? There's this dude, I talked about him before, his name's Tony Lopez. He's been getting accused of grooming children on TikTok, like sending them private DMs through Instagram, and then they'll answer because he's like a really popular Instagram figure and a really popular TikToker, that is. and he uses his platform as a way to reach out to like younger children. And then I feel like, okay, we should be canceling. I hate the word cancel. It's so overused and it's lost its meaning, just like simp. Now simp stands for everything. If you do even the slightest thing, you're a simp. I'm sorry that my mic just peaked. I dropped my phone on the table. You can be considered a simp over everything. Oh, you picked up someone's book, you're a simp. Oh, you talked to this girl, you're a simp. And just like that terminology is still being overused, as well as the other, like the term canceled. People are getting canceled over the stupidest things, man. It's really insane. Like Charlie D'Amelio had her whole Dino Nugget thing, and then people are canceling. People are yet again canceling Charlie D'Amelio for not knowing who Trippie Redd is. I mean, Trippie Redd. Okay, don't get me wrong. I know many people love Trippie Redd. I listen to some of his music. He's not my favorite artist. Probably never will be. I like some of his music. I like Wake Up Call that he did with KSI, and that's pretty much to the extent that I know Trippie Redd from. And Charlie D'Amelio got canceled on TikTok for not knowing who Trippie Redd is. This guy posted a video on TikTok saying Charlie D'Amelio is acting like she's a celebrity by not knowing who Trippie Redd is. And I'm like, yeah, because she is a celebrity. I don't think people have quite a grasp on how many people 100 million people is. Like, my little country has 8 million people. 1 million people would be like if you... Charlie D'Amelio has 100 million followers, right? So that would be the equivalent of me going on the U.S. streets, because the U.S. has like something like insane, like 300 million people in this country. It would be like if I went to the U.S. and then I started and I asked people, do you know Charlie D'Amelio? That would mean 1 out of 3 people would say, yes, I do know Charlie D'Amelio. And I feel like if you went out on the streets, it would be more like 1 out of 2 people who know who Charlie D'Amelio is, because most of the people that are going out anyways are teenagers and like younger people, because boomers are being boomers and staying at home. But oh my god, that's gonna get so taken out of context. I'm all for wearing masks, okay? And I just saw, that was really stupid. I don't know why I said that. I'm all for wearing masks. I'm not anti-mask at all. That just slipped out for some reason. And yeah, this podcast took a really, really, really bad toll for just me ranting. But hey, that's what we're here for. And overall, recently I've been just playing Minecraft a lot, because I with school, man. Oh my god, school is an absolute train wreck. Because if you go on school and school has taken a toll on my life. But sometimes I feel like, okay, sometimes I'm like productive and like actually do stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is actually quite fun. I feel like I'm achieving something, and my grades are relatively high. I mean, they're actually really good. I have all A's except 2 B's, but that's not the point. The point is that it's really, really, really unhealthy to be doing this amount of homework when, we shouldn't really be doing this much homework, because I'm 14. I shouldn't be learning about U.S. history, and I find that really stupid too, that I, as a 14-year-old kid, I'm learning about U.S. history. Why do I want to learn about U.S. history? Is it because my teachers are from the U.S.? Is that the only reason why I need to be learning U.S. history? I feel like I should be learning about my country's history, not some random ass country's history, because it's really insane that I'm learning about your guys' history. Not that there's anything wrong with your country. I'm sure the U.S. is a lovely place. I've actually visited a couple times, and I think it's very lovely. But I mean, why should I be learning about U.S. history? Shouldn't people be learning about their own country's history? And I feel like that applies for everything. I feel like schools and all over the world get like people say that, oh, we're learning about U.S. history. Why are you learning about U.S. history if you live in New Zealand, for example? Shouldn't you be learning about New Zealand culture and New Zealand's history? But no, you learn about some random country's history because that's just the country that's been chosen to be the prime example, which, by the way, it's not. You have an orange man with a toupee leading you, and you say that you're the greatest country in the world. Not saying that U.S. people are great, first of all. I've met a couple. My aunt even lives in the U.S. She's awesome. She's great, okay? I'm just saying, many different people have their own different opinions on what the U.S. is. And I'm just going to tell you, most people here in Honduras really think, like, the stereotype here is that all American people are really stupid because of those videos posted on TikTok in which they get asked really simple questions and they're like, they don't know anything. There was a segment on Jimmy Kimmel where they went on the street and they asked random people, like, they just asked random people like random facts, and they said, what country is this? And it was a map of the US, and these people said Russia, one of them said Finland. And actually, I'm gonna make this episode a bit longer and we can watch the video here. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted, but I mean, who cares? Alright, we can watch a little bit of this video because it's only 3 minutes long. Let me point away the microphone away from me so you can actually hear the video better. So the video is called Can You Name a Country? And let's take a look at it, shall we?
Now it's time for something. I don't know if this will be educational, but the president is overseas. He's visiting Belgium, England, Scotland, and then his pal Putin in Finland. It's a big trip with many important ramifications. It's imperative that America...
Alright, we're gonna skip this part. Because, okay, let me just get to the part where they send people on the streets. Okay, let's see this.
And here's how that went.
Alright, so the first segment is called Can You Name a Country?
Country on this map. Honestly, my geography is so horrible. I can't name anything. Like, anything. Is it South Africa? Nope.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Wait. She just said, she pointed to a country and asked, she pointed to South America, right? South America. And she said, is this South Africa? And I'm gonna watch a couple more, okay?
The country of Asia?
Look, oh my god, please tell me you heard that. This guy said the country of Asia. Now, I'm no geography teacher, but I think Asia isn't a country. It's a whole continent. And calling it a country isn't the smartest IQ move ever.
Continent, and that's Russia.
Oh, damn. I'm silly.
That's okay.
Man, it's been a while since I've been in school.
That's okay. Any country on the map.
Africa.
That's a continent.
Oh my god. Oh my god, he got asked, point a country on the map, and he pointed at Africa. He pointed at Africa as a country? Really? Like, out of... Oh my god. He was shown a world map. He could have said any country. He could have pointed at the US, for crying out loud. But no, instead of pointing at his country, the country that he should know the best because, well, he lives in it, he pointed at Africa and said it was a country. And that just goes, I'm sorry, listen, if you're American or from the US, I know that's the same thing, you like to call yourself American, please don't call yourself American while you're in Honduras or in any Latin American country, because if you come to like here, or you go to any other like Latino country and you call yourself American, people are gonna get really pissed at you, because America is a whole continent, not only United States, so people get really pissy when you say that you're from America, because then they're like, dude, America's the entire continent, and then you're like, no, I'm from the US. So whatever you do, if you ever come to a Latino country and you're from the US, don't say that you're from America, because it'll get people really pissed off, and you don't want to piss off my people, because then they'll pull up and shoot you. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this podcast episode. Today's been a lovely episode, really. I'm really happy that I got a chance to record, because I haven't recorded in a while. But I'm gonna try and see if I can get this 1 week thing sorted out, and then maybe eventually I can start doing bi-weekly episodes, because I tried doing bi-weekly episodes and it didn't work out because of school. So I think I'm gonna stick for now at least 2 weekly episodes. So if you want to know my schedule, you can be sure to get an episode every Tuesday at 1 a.m. CS Central Standard Time, which is about 2 a.m. everywhere else in the world. And yeah, this is pretty much it for the Teens Mind episode. If you want to follow me on Instagram at @theteenagersmind_, and follow me on Twitter at @itsteensmind. And you can just tweet me, follow me, and ask me anything that you'd like on there, and I'll be sure to answer, because I know because I have a lot of free time basically. And if you have any suggestions for guests that I should get on the podcast, I don't think I'll get on any guests soon. I think pretty much for the next couple of episodes it's just gonna be me talking to myself. But if you have some guest recommendations, no, you don't say recommendations, you say guest suggestions. Is that here? Let me teach you a fun fact. In Spanish, you say recomendación. Recomendación is suggestion, so that's why I got I'm sorry about that. And yeah, so thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next episode, which will probably be a bonus episode, and it'll probably get released either Thursday, or if I decide not to do the bonus episode, it'll just get released you'll just hear you just hear back from me on Tuesday. But anyways, it's Teens Mind, and thank you for listening. I love you.